Good morning, everyone. Father Gallagher here, and I want to talk a little bit today about Mary. If you ever had any idea that Mary was not our greatest saint, there are 18 feasts in honor of Mary in the course of the church year. 18. And we celebrated one of them this past week. It was the feast day of Our Lady of Sorrows. Right after we celebrated the feast day of the Exaltation of the Cross, the very next day we celebrate Mary's crosses and Mary's sorrow. And there have been identified in our church history 7 sorrows of Mary. The presentation when she brought Jesus to the temple as a child, and Simeon said, "A sword of sorrow will pierce your heart." The flight into Egypt, when she lost Jesus for 3 days when he was in the temple, when she met him on the road to Calvary, when he was crucified and died, when he was taken down from the cross and placed in her arms, and finally when he was placed in the tomb. I want to read the gospel for that day, the Feast of the Sorrows of Mary. It's very short, but very powerful. It's from John's Gospel. And only John mentions this. Standing by the cross of Jesus were his mother's sister Mary, the wife of Clopas, and Mary Magdalene. When Jesus saw his mother and the disciple there whom he loved, he said to his mother, "Woman, behold your son." And then he said to the disciple, "Behold your mother." And from that hour, the disciple took her into his home. On May 21st, 1971, on the Feast of Pentecost, a man named Laszlo Toth took a hammer and tried to destroy the most famous sculpture in honor of Mary in the world. He wasn't successful, but he did take off Mary's arm at the elbow, chipped her nose, and also her eyelid. So famous is this sculpture that in 1964, it was brought from Rome, all 15 tons of it, to New York City for the World's Fair. And there it sat in what was called the Vatican Pavilion. Michelangelo sculpted this statue of Mary in the year 1498. And I'm talking about the Pieta. It has Mary sitting there holding the dead body of Jesus in her lap. And if you want to see it, you have to go to St. Peter's Basilica in Rome, and there you'll find the Pieta behind bulletproof glass. When Jackie Kennedy was coming home from Dallas with her husband's dead body, he had just been assassinated. She had on that pink dress that she wore that day with all of his blood on it. And before they came to Washington, D.C., and people would see her for the first time, they pleaded with her to change the dress. But she wouldn't, because she said, "I want them to see what they did to him." And the Pieta is like that. You know, Mary is holding the dead body of her son and kind of saying to us, look what you've done. Look what you've done to him through your sins. And from the cross, Jesus not only gives his life, but he gives his mother. He gives us his mother. And he says, "Take care of my mother." It's not only John that he's speaking to, it's the church, it's us. Take care of my mother. And every time we say the rosary, every time we celebrate one of those 18 feast days, every time we have a statue of Mary in our home or wear a medal of Mary, anytime we say a prayer to Mary, we are taking care of his mother. And the amazing thing about the gospel story is that Mary is at the foot of the cross and she's helpless. She can do nothing. She didn't cause this suffering. She can't make it go away. She just stands there helpless, and she absorbs the suffering and somehow unites her own suffering to the suffering of her son on the cross. There are sufferings in our life that we cause. There are sufferings in our life that we can change. But often there are sufferings in our life that we didn't ask for, that we didn't cause, that we can't do anything about. And we honor Mary and take care of Mary when we stand there in those sufferings, like the pandemic that we're in right now. We stand there and absorb those sufferings and somehow unite them to the sufferings of Mary and to the sufferings of Jesus on the cross. We used to say in the old days, offer it up. And that's what we do. It's maybe our greatest prayer, that in those suffering times when we're very much like Mary, we offer up our sufferings and unite them with the sufferings of Christ on the cross. And so it is for us redemptive suffering. Thanks, everybody, and have a good day.